Well, we have arrived, we've returned, the summer break is over, it's round 5 of the International GTOpen Championship. We bring you action here at the Red Bull Ring. 4.318 miles indeed of racing, plenty to look forward to, certainly in the Styrian Mountains. Of course, we've just witnessed a wonderful qualifying session this morning that brings us into this fantastic race event that we have here in Austria. There you can see the humidity at 78%, track temperature sits at 19 degrees. We've had rain on and off all day long, so it's going to be, again, an extra test for the drivers and obviously another test for the spectators in order to stay dry as well. My name is, of course, if you don't know, George Morgan, and I'm joined by my co-commentator colleague here at the GTOpen. It's Ian Silvestrin. Ian, welcome.
Thank you, George. Great to be back in the International GTOpen Championship as the cars come out onto the circuit. If you're just joining us and expecting to see the magnificent Euro Formula EF320 Dallara open wheel racing cars on the circuit, well, due to the, let's say, restrictions here in Austria, we have to finish racing by 6 o'clock this evening on the dot. So the program has been changed. The Euro Formula race will follow this, the GTOpen International 70-minute race. The weather has played havoc here this weekend. You can see the windscreen wipers on. We had heavy rains here this afternoon. And for the moment, the track, well, it has officially been declared wet. The sky is extremely dark. Certainly summer is over here in Europe at the most picturesque circuit in the world. And in a few moments' time, we will get underway with the 70-minute race one for the weekend, International GTOpen race. We had qualifying this morning, and the Ferrari drivers 1, 2, 3 on the grid as Nick Moss for the Optimum Motorsport team parks the 72 McLaren on grid 7.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. David Fuminelli was usurped heading towards the end of qualifying and pulled together yet another incredible display. Did the Italian, certainly does enjoy qualifying here in the International GTOpen. A third pole position performance, wonderful to say the least. Murat Çağrıoğlu was delighted, of course, with that, and that puts him in a great position. Obviously, subject to Fuminelli's stint, he'll obviously have a stint in front too if things should stay the same. Michele Rigolo as well, who's joining us here for this race too. He makes his first appearance this season. He lines up in second place. Philip Barron as well, Barron Motorsport, third place as well. A Ferrari 1, 2 and 3, as Ian alluded to, with Moritz Kranz there in fourth place, who partners Janine Schaffner, part of a two-car Mercedes lineup, because of course Steve Jans is in fifth as well. You then got a Lamborghini of Glenn van Berlo, who came into this race weekend the championship leader, and will be looking to once again hit the top end, though I can imagine their teammates, of course Leonardo Polcini and Ben Jahites, are going to be looking for something a bit different.
This is Philip Barron on your screen. Look at the green sticker on the windscreen. That is an AM entry, and he's parked car 91, the Ferrari, on grid 3. For the moment, the track is, well, it's actually, for Austrian standards, it's, I'm being generous here saying it's reasonably warm. It's not freezing cold for the moment. The track is dry in parts, but we are expecting rain in the next 70 minutes. If you remember last year, we had a torrential downpour in the dying stages of the race, and Turn 3 effectively became the world's most expensive car park. Ultimately, Michele Beretta and Frederic Schandorf taking the victory for Vincenzo Sospiri, racing in the green Lamborghini, and we may get a repeat this afternoon. Great to see Fran Rueda back out on track. He stopped and in fact brought out the red flag in qualifying this morning with a gearbox issue, but the 44 car lines up on grid 9, ready to get underway to race in a few moments' time. 1 of 10 Mercedes in the field. Heiko Newman, Team Motopark, sharing that car with Timo Rumpfkeil himself back behind the wheel, as well as managing the team, and quite a few Euro Formula cars as well. This will be a fantastic race. Round 5 of the International GTOpen Championship here at the fabulous Red Bull Ring here in Austria.
Yeah, certainly is going to be a smashing event. Obviously, two McLarens as well. We're alluding back to the Greystone GT team and the Optimum Motorsport team. But here's our pole sitter. It is David Fuminelli on the front row. First place, pole position for the Italian, lining up as well with the Turkish mastermind Murat Çağrıoğlu. And they'll be making the swap later on together, that's for sure. There's the AF Corsa car joining him on the front row. Michele Rigolo there in second place. And he'll be looking for a great start to first appearance in the championship this season. And in behind we have the Barron Motorsport car as well. Philip Barron, no less, lining up in third place. And that's another Ferrari, our third Ferrari in the top 3, and representing the AM category as well. What a sensation to see that car on the second row. And then you have Moritz Kranz in the Get Speed Performance Mercedes, ever present in the top end. Moritz Kranz, Janine Schaffner as well, lining up alongside him. A wave there from Moritz as he looks to get underway. Steve Jans will line up alongside him, the Dutchman, with also a Get Speed Performance Mercedes. We've got quite a contingent of that team lining up through this grid order, representing in all classifications pretty much, as we're now seeing yet another car through as well. Glenn Van Berlo as part of the Lamborghini contingent, the current championship leader, alongside, of course, Kevin Gillardoni. They'll be making the swap later on. Nick Moss lines up in behind as well, 7th place. Managed to recover quite well towards the end of qualifying, moving his car further up the order, and then he'll hand over to Joe Osborne later on. Those two have enjoyed quite a flurry of wins, and here is Ben Jahites, of course, partner to that of Leonardo Polcini, who's just given him a pat just to give him, just to cheer him up before we start this race. Of course, Polcini and Hites, one of the strong partnerships that started the season. Here is Fran Rueda, who lines up as well here in this particular car alongside Andrew Gilbert. Of course, Andrew Gilbert untested in this type of situation, so when it comes to GTs and the weather as well, but certainly he'll be looking for a big run today. There's Carol Bash with Marcin Jedlinski in the car, representing that of Olymp Racing in the Audi. They'll be looking for a great start too in this event.
Florian Schulze in the Antonelli Motorsport car, sharing the car with Marco Antonelli himself. 24 cars on the grid, just a few moments before the start. Race 1, round 5 here in Austria.
And here we have highlights from our last round at Hungary. And obviously, it was the 2 Oregon cars who led the way. Remember, turn 1, oh so treacherous, as we saw Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler make their way through this field, of course. We also had the likes of Roman Zamian having to battle with the likes of the Team GT car. It was a torrid day for Thiba Motorsport, who saw themselves in the wall. But Oregon led the way again. Moritz Kranz lined up in behind as well. But Team GT would take their first win of the season. Of course, a great moment for Alan Valente and his teammate as well. We then got away for race 2 as well. The Kessel Racing team leading the way down into the charge in towards turn 1. There was quite a flurry of cars with a Ferrari Olymp just tucking in front of there as well. Little battling heading in towards the final corner, and it would be, as they rounded that bend, Kevin Gillardoni just in front. Then you see Carol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski. Jedlinski taking the wheel on that occasion with the 720S McLaren making its way through. Certainly Monaco without walls, to say the least, but it would be the Team Oregon car, the Lamborghini of Kevin Gillardoni, and that as well of Glenn Van Berlo, who would take the victory on that occasion. And that gives us this championship standing currently. 81 points going to Glenn Van Berlo and Kevin Gillardoni. Nick Moss just in behind as well, 78 points. Only 3 separate them in the championship, with Ben Jahites and Leonardo Polcini just behind those.
Welcome to the home of the Austrian Formula One Grand Prix. This afternoon, we race round 5 of the GTOpen International Championship. Ferraris 1, 2, 3 on the grid. The 2 Italians, 1 and 2, Fulmanelli and Michele Rugolo. Then we go to Philip Barron, an AM driver, and then the first of 10 Mercedes, Moritz Kranz. Steve Jans and Glenn Van Berlo. The Oregon Lamborghini is out of 6. We go to Nick Moss, the first of the McLarens. A track that does suit the British supercar, is alongside Benjamin Hites. Fran Rueda and Marcin Jedlinski, the Spaniard, in the pole on the 5th row of the grid, the 2nd McLaren in the field. Florian Schulze for Antonelli Motorsport. Martin Conrad is alongside out of grid 12. Adam Oseka, who had a spin in qualifying, alongside the girl from Saudi Arabia, Rima Jufali. Dino Steiner, Mario Hirsch, out of 16, Laurent Demus and Roman Zamian as the field set off on their formation lap. Heiko Newman for Team Motorpark and Bernard Leiber. Stephen Earle from the United States of America. Dexter Muller, who was at the front last time out. Stanislav Jedlinski is out of grid 23 as the cars set off on their formation lap. This is a 70-minute race here this afternoon. 10 minutes less than that they will race tomorrow. But there's still a lot of racing here to go this afternoon under very threatening skies. You can see the headlights are on. The 23 GT3 supercars in round 5, race 1 of the GTOpen International Circuit as championship at the most picturesque circuit in the world, the Red Bull Ring here in Austria. There is Nick Moss, lights up the rear Michelins on the McLaren. Look for a strong start from the 777 Audi of Marcin Jedlinski. Osieka going through, there is Rima Jufali, Martin Conrad, Mario Hirsch as well, Roman Zeman. Good run from Roman in Poland. You can see there is a dry racing line for the moment, but if you look out the windscreen of Steve Jan's car, it is very dark here in the Styrian countryside.
Yeah, absolutely. David Fuminelli's going to need to get a good launch off the front.
Fuminelli, pole position here at the Red Bull Ring. You will start the race ahead of everyone and together with Murat, of course. Third pole position of the season.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we've been on an incredible form in qualifying, and so we knew we had a good potential. Yesterday was a messy day with rain and dry, so we couldn't really test the car. So it was the first time we really pushed on the new tire. I couldn't really put the lap together, but it was enough. So I'm very happy, and I also would like to dedicate this pole position to Yasmin. That's for sure. He's watching from home, and he's cheering for us. So let's try to have a good race for her later on.
Well, all smiles from Yasmin, I am sure, David Fuminelli. A wonderful way to commence things here, certainly in the GTOpen, that's for sure. And there you can see him on the front row alongside Michele Regulo, who's alongside him. In behind, Philip Barron, second row, Moritz Kranz. Of course, you've got the AM car currently sat in that third place. A wonderful commencement for him. Steve Jans in behind. Glenn van Berlo will no doubt be looking to get a real shot in the arm of a start as well, as the cars now round their way through that final corner tentatively as they make their way down through towards the long straight. They will shortly be getting going here in this race. They're fighting over position right now as they head towards turn one, and it's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go. David Fuminelli leading the way, but what about Michele Regolo, who's now looking to try and attack him in towards turn one. Fuminelli, though, with the ideal inside line, runs off wide, though, and there, of course, a car who has an opportunity to slip through, but great job from Fuminelli to keep the car under control. Glenn van Berlo right in the middle of things as well, with Paul Gini, his teammate, further back, also in the fight. There you can see as we run on board with Fran Rueda, who's trying to fight his way through the field as he now makes his way up towards Remus. Fuminelli out on top. Regulo there in second, but for how long? Here comes now Moritz Kranz as well, all going off wide. Martin Conrad sweeping off into the tarmac as we're now seeing still three wide now as they make their way down towards Schloss Gold. Glenn van Berlo trying to hold on to second. He has got the Olymp car in behind as well. Sensational start. Oh, the F course is off into the gravel trap at Schloss Gold, and that is certainly Michele Regolo, who's now off the circuit. A huge recovery mission. What a rampant start there, Ian.
Michele Regolo, what a disappointment for the Italian. The 182 AF Corsa Ferrari becomes a rallycross car before the end of the first lap. Davide Fuminelli withstood immense pressure. He's got the race lead. They were three wide down the back straight. Regolo off into the gravel. A fantastic start by the Dutchman. Glenn van Berlo, as you ride on board with Steve Jans in the Mercedes 911. The 911 car of Steve Jans up into position 8. There is Glenn van Berlo, the Oregon car, up into second place. What a start by Marcin Jedlinski. Up into position 3. He's made up a ton of places on the opening lap of the race, trying to get word on Michele Regolo. We believe he has rejoined, but he's way down the field at the back of the pack as they come across the line for the first time. Fuminelli, Glenn van Berlo, Jedlinski up into P3. From Moritz Kranz, under pressure is Benja Hintez, who is already in 5th place. Right behind him is Florian Schultz. A good start for the German. Adam Osieka behind him gets the slipstream. Nick Moss has lost a few places at the start as well. And the top McLaren going through, Fran Rueda. Great to see they have repaired that gearbox after a problem in qualifying. There is the Spaniard on the outside. Multiple victories already in the past few seasons. And he's back with us in the GTOpen International Championship. And he now tries the outside line of Steve Jans. They race down the hill for the second time you ride on board with the driver from Luxembourg, Steve Jans.
Yeah, Steve Jans now down into Slosh Gold. Has still got Fran Rueda alongside, getting a better run, the McLaren 720S, and does move on through, holds on to that position. P8 now goes to Fran Rueda. We also saw earlier on as well Adam Osaka. Now, Adam Osaka started P13 on the grid as we got started in this race, has now managed to cultivate an improvement up to 7th as well. So what a start, as now we see the cars make their way through the 3rd sector and heading down towards the final couple of corners on this particular lap with just over, or just under, should I say, 67 minutes to go in this race. Moritz Kranz there in 9th, in behind as well. You have got that of Marcin Jedlinski, who is looking to try and power on forward. Moritz Kranz, Kahneman, should I say, lying in 4th place with certainly Jedlinski, who's now been relegated down to that 4th spot, incidentally. Kranz moving up into 3rd. Hites in 5th, Scholzer in 6th. Aseka there tracking him as well, with the Greystone GT of Fran Rueda already looking to make yet another place in this top 10 contingent as they come out of turn 1. It's the Niki Lauda curve at this point. They'll make the high incline rise up through towards Remus. Fuminelli still leading the charge. Has done so quite convincingly as well. 2.6 seconds to his name ahead of Glenn Van Berlo. As now they look to get the run up towards the Remus corner now at turn 3. A little sweep there to the outside from the Greystone GT car. Very attractive move indeed, looking for maybe the overspeed to do him a favour heading down towards Slosh Gold. He certainly will have that as they make their way down the straight yet again. Fran Rueda swapping sides, looking for a way through. He certainly looks primed as now they head down through towards Slosh Gold now. Fran Rueda in the 720S heads down now into that next right-hander. Can he make the move? Can he get it done? Will he slip into the gravel? Not this time. Certainly looks good. Back onto the power as we now see them make their way through. He is ahead and has got ahead indeed of Adam Osaka. Great move.
Fantastic racing in the opening stages of this race here this afternoon. Fuminelli has got the race lead. He's pulled out, in fact, 2.5 seconds from Glenn Van Berlo. Back on board with Steve Jans. Let's listen. What a sound that is on board the Get Speed car. He's inside the top 10. Back to the race leader, David Fuminelli. You may see the order. There is, at the left of your screen, Arugolo has rejoined. He's down in 19th place. Fuminelli from pole position for Kessel Racing in position 1. Van Berlo in the background. Menacing sight that, the V10 Lamborghini on the charge. The driver, certainly, that's been impressive in the early stages of this race. Glenn Van Berlo, the young Dutchman, up into 2nd. And also, we know that the McLarens are very well suited to this circuit. As is this car on your screen. Fantastic start from Marcin Jedlinski, as we see. Now, at the corner of the window of our commentary box, Michele Arugolo has pulled down into pit lane. Back on board, this is Fran Rueda in the McLaren. Races down the back straight. Tries the outside of Florian Schultz in the Antonelli Motorsport Mercedes. Fendia Hites just ahead in the Lamborghini. They're side by side out of the Roush curve. So despite the conditions, a clean start here. Race 1 of the GTOpen International Championship. Back with us, Michele Arugolo. Started on the front row of the grid, but the Italian down and parked in pit lane. It's not a good start for the AF Corsa team.
No, had a really, really difficult start after the venture into the gravel trap heading out of Slosh Gold. Just wasn't to be, and now into the pit lane of all places as well, as we're now watching the cars make their way through the final point of this lap, obviously in the final sector. As they now peel downwards, Florian Scholzer, who we're just seeing in picture, just in behind that of the Greystone GT car belonging to Fran Rueda, currently sat in 6th place. Benji Hites then in front of them. He'll be swapping out for Polcini later on. Of course, they were the ones who kicked things off in the championship with a great performance at Estoril, taking up the wins, not to mention leading the championship for a considerable amount of time, only losing out to their teammates, of course, Glenn Van Berlo and Kevin Gillardoni. And Van Berlo currently sitting in 2nd place, so Gillardoni be hoping he can continue this rich vein of form that he's currently in as they now make the climb again up through towards Remus. We run on board now with Steve Jans. As we head up now towards turn 3, there you can see all the cars there jostling for position. And we've seen it quite a few times this weekend. The driest point of the track is on the inside. You don't want to be on the outside so much under braking. You can lose traction. We've been seeing it with the single-seaters, the support series all weekend. Try and go for that drier line. It does help with grip, and certainly with cornering as well on inset and outset of these particular bends.
George just in that battle as well, or thereabouts. Rima Jafali, it looks as though she's been able to get by Nick Moss, who's dropped back to 13th. And the Saudi Arabian driver in the Thiba Motorsport car, who'll hand over to Adam Christodoulou later on in the race. She's just outside the top 10. Good performance from Moritz Kranz, a busy 2021 and 2022. Racing in the IMSA series in the United States of America. He's in position 3 in the Mercedes on the back of the menacing Oregon Lamborghini as they race down the start-finish straight. This is Jedlinski who runs wide. Hites in the background. It is raining here at the Red Bull Ring. It was inevitable that the heavens would open. It is now raining here in Austria.
Certainly is as well. We got side-by-side action heading down through towards turn 1 as they do so. Obviously, Niki Lauda curve coming up next. And there you can see Marcin Jedlinski, who's trying to hold on to the outside line and not able to. Running off very wide indeed. Has to really break away and try and re-enter back onto the circuit. Risky business certainly here on this particular lap. And as the rain cascades downwards, the Greystone GT car managing to get ahead there of Benja Hites as well. Jedlinski dropping through the field right now. Scholz has overtaken him. So's Osaka. And he's got more and more coming his way as well, not to mention plenty of the Philip Barron as well, who makes his way through. As Steve Jans also ventures forward as well, dropping backwards. Certainly at this point in time, not ideal at all, and he's going to have to certainly try and recover as they do make their way down through towards Slosh Gold now. As we look on board from Steve Jans, just ahead Marcin Jedlinski, in behind Marcin Jedlinski. Up ahead you've got certainly Adam Osaka jostling for position with Philip Barron, and has got ahead of Philip Barron as well. So a great run indeed from Osaka. He's had a wonderful start.
Rueda is up into position 4 now. George, this is interesting. It has just started raining and we're just about to tick over to the 10-minute mark. It's way too early to come in and change drivers. We're nowhere near close enough for the pit stop window, so we may be looking at multiple pit stops. The sky is dark. There is rain in certain parts of the circuit. Down into turn 1, the Niki Lauda curve, you can see the track is dry as Van Berlo does still defend from Kranz. They race up the hill, so they'll be praying for the rain to hold off, or at least not to be too heavy. The Michelin tyre, it is a world-class tyre. But when the heavens do open here in Austria, no chance on a slick circuit.
No tyres are your friend at that point, as we're now watching certainly the cars around turn 1. There's Adam Osaka, who's once again trying to pepper the rear of Florian Scholz. He's currently sat in 6th place in behind, though. Keep your eyes peeled on Philip Barron, who is hovering right behind that of the Mercedes. Further back, Steve Jans, who's been watching this unfold now for the past 2 laps. He's got the best seat in the house as they now come up towards turn 3. And there you can see Philip Barron opting for that outside line once again. Adam Osaka going for the move on Florian Scholz, who ultimately has to go defensive. Here comes Hites now, who's in the fight with none other than Moritz Kranz. As they do one come through, oh, contact! They did touch, coming through that first corner at the Wirth and Roche curves and dropping back. In fact, I believe that's the other Oregon car, Glenn Van Berlo. I apologise, folks. Glenn Van Berlo, who was in 2nd, has now dropped down to 3rd. Moritz Kranz up into 2nd.
What a battle in the opening stages of this race as the rain holds off for the moment. So David Fumanelli with 5 seconds. The lead, his advantage over the 2 cars on your screen. The Get Speed Mercedes now up into position 2. The German driver, Moritz Kranz, looking to keep the Michelin tyres alive. We have to mention something about the racing line down the start-finish straight on what has been, well, a very greasy track all weekend. You may be asking why they're pulling to the pit wall side. The track is just coated in rubber on the outside. They get to turn 1 and basically they've got no grip. It's sort of reminiscent of what we see at Indianapolis, although that's more to do with caster and stagger when they go down and drift on the inside. Here it's just about getting grip into turn 1 as this battle rages on. There's Adam Osaka. Good recovery as well from Philip Barron. Started on grid 3, the AM driver. He's still inside the top 10. Steve Jans, Martin Conrad, and Rima Jafali. She's now just behind this battle. She's in position 11. She ranges up behind Martin Conrad up into turn 3. And Rima Jafali may well put the Thiba Motorsport car inside the top 10 before the end of this very lap. Fumanelli continues to lead. 5 seconds is the gap. Back to Moritz Kranz and Glenn Van Berlo. Look at the battle rage behind as they race down the far part of the circuit. This roller coaster racing of a circuit. Roller coaster of a circuit. It's very undulating, let's say that.
It certainly is undulating. As we now see pictures now, the cars making their way through Steve Jans, who's again watching all this happen. It's all chaotic at this midpoint of the track, as we're now seeing them all nose to tail, the gap thinner than a fly's eyelash. Adam Osaka currently holding on to his position with Florian Schultz just ahead of him. He's looking for every access possible, Osaka, not quite able to open the door just yet. Philip Barron also just waiting to pounce on any mistake as he now makes his way down through towards the final part of this circuit. Here comes Steve Jans now, just dipping down into this next right. Takes a lot of the curbs on the right-hand side. He does have one corner left on this particular bend, 10 corners at this particular track. There's the Greystone GT car we just saw in picture making its way through. Glenn van Berlo, who's ahead of him, who's just in behind Moritz Kranz, who's in second. We've got a warning for flag cars of 9 and 19. Track limits at turn 9 and 10. So that belongs to Moritz Kranz, and also car 19 as well, Glenn van Berlo. So both of them taking maybe slight liberties with the corners, as we're now seeing. Certainly this was the effort between that of Moritz Kranz and Glenn van Berlo when they tied up side by side.
What a move by Moritz Kranz on the outside and then cut back in. It became the inside. There was group on the outside once again. The move put the 9 Mercedes up into position 2 ahead of the highly rated young Dutch driver Glenn van Berlo. But then this, they touched ever so lightly. It looks as though they both got away with that.
They did, very, very close. They certainly did rub shoulders. There's Janine Schaffner watching on as well, cheering on Moritz Kranz as well, who's currently sitting in second place. No doubt it'll be all smiles in that garage, and she'll be waiting for her start heading into the latter point of this race, as we now see more side-by-side action once again. AF Corsa whipping out in behind as well. Laurent de Meos trying to find his way through this next right-hander as well. A bit of hard labour in behind, as you can now see them coming side-by-side. Stephen Earle, who's having to give way, and Laurent de Meos now moves ahead of Stephen Earle for that 19th spot, so a great move indeed. Further up, of course, we've still got Fran Rueda currently battling it out with Ben Jahites, who's currently sat in that 5th spot. Fran Rueda, who made a change of team, of course. He's here for the first time with Greystone GT. Of course, this is Greystone GT's first appearance in GTOpen this season, hoping for a strong full season next season. Obviously, it's a great team. Met them yesterday. Once again, we're back to this fight happening further down as well. The scrap going on between Florian Scholzer and Adam Osaka still continues, with Philip Barron just in behind as well. But look at the contingent that are caught up as well. Nick Moss part of it as well further back, with Rima Jafali also looking to try and make moves this time on Martin Conrad. So this could easily light up very quickly as they head up towards turn 3. As they do so now, very tight inside line from Steve Jans there.
1 Ferrari, 5 Mercedes and a McLaren in this battle, which rages on in the early stages of this race 1 here. There's Rima Jafali in great form here this afternoon. Nick Moss, multiple victories in 2021 in the Optimum Motorsport McLaren behind the Thieber Motorsport. Mercedes, there's 10 Mercedes in the field here this afternoon. Good recovery from Philip Barron. There is Rima Jafali. She was on the back of Martin Conrad just a few moments ago in the man filter car. And Nick Moss, and we go back just a position to Dino Steiner in the background. Nick Moss going through, he'll hand that car over to Joe Osborne at some point in the race. The rain has held off for the moment. David Fulminelli still with a 5-second lead. He's got the fastest lap of the race as well, a 1:31.65 on what is a very greasy circuit here this afternoon. They come across the line to start lap 11 of the race. There's Philip Barron on the back of Adam Osaka. Tries the outside line. He's found some rhythm now. Philip Barron, the AM driver, we cannot reiterate that enough. Qualified grid 3 this morning. Incidentally, speaking of Ferrari, Michele Rugolo has rejoined the race. He is a lap down and in last position. We'll see if he can come carving up through the field. There's still almost an hour of racing to go on what is, well, still for the moment a dry circuit. Fulminelli with the race lead from Moritz Kranz, Glenn van Berlo. Fran Rueda in position 4. Benja Hites, Florian Scholzer heads this battle. He's in position 6. Adam Osaka, Barron tries the outside line. As we see Steve Jans in the background. Good defensive driving from Scholz. There's Nick Moss on the outside of Rima Jafali. Wheel to wheel, side by side, the Mercedes and the McLaren. This is like sprint racing here in Austria. There's Dino Steiner in the Ost Motorsport Audi in the background. Nick Moss desperately trying to find a way by the girl from Saudi Arabia. Steve Jans in the 911 Get Speed Mercedes. Almost half the field comes from Mercedes here this weekend. They are numerous, but it is still a Ferrari who leads. It looks as though one car offline. Indeed it is. Just trying to get out of the way. Stanislav Jedlinski further back in the pack, still circulating as they come across the line one more time. Fulminelli, 5.8, almost 6 seconds. His battle rages inside the top 10. Steve Jans gets the toe, well over 200 k's an hour, despite it being a greasy track. And Schultz withstands the pressure in the Antonelli Motorsport car. For the moment, Philip Barron gets the run. The AM driver tries the outside. Side by side, wheel to wheel here in Austria. There was debris on the background, in the background on the circuit. Barron has gone through. Nicely done by Philip Barron. The AM driver takes a position back. Adam Osieka, Steve Jans, the Luxembourgish driver as well. This is a fantastic fight. The opening stages of race 1, round 5, the GTOpen International Championship. We ride on board once again with Steve Jans. What a sound that is. The 6.2 litre V8 Mercedes.
Yeah, absolutely right. He's loving it out there right now, Steve Jans. Of course, Philip Barron making moves. I have to tell you, he's overtaken, obviously, Adam Oseka, then Florian Schulze holding on to that 6th spot. Certainly got some ground to catch now on Ben Jahites, who's currently 8 seconds up the road from him. There's Oseka. Once again, Steve Jans hovering now over the rear now, Adam Oseka. Not content with remaining in 8th place. Wants a piece of Florian Schulze as they head around this next section of the track. Steve Jans is also giving up waiting as they head through this final corner here at the Red Bull Mobile curve. Heading down this next straight 2 in behind Martin Conrad has joined the fight, and he's brought along Rima Jafali as well. We've got a Mercedes contingent here as they make their way down through towards turn 1 with a McLaren at the back. Rima Jafali going for the move on the outside there, and Martin Conrad making him think slightly as they head out to turn 1. They've got turn 2 and 3 next, obviously leading them up towards the 90-degree right with Nick Moss, who's also primed as well in behind, and he also opens the door as they now head up through up towards Remus now. In comes Moss. Could it be the case that the McLaren could get ahead of Rima Jafali, who certainly has lost out? Nick Moss with the grip, managing to find his way through, but he's off the track slightly, trying to muscle his way over the sausage curbs. Steve Jans and Adam Oseka coming together side by side as well as they head down now towards the next right at Schloss Gold. Adam Oseka with the inside. He will have that advantage. Steve Jans having to lift off slightly, staying behind, could not find the cutback. Rima Jafali losing out to Nick Moss. A sensational moment indeed. Nick Moss still peppering though, looking for a way past Martin Conrad.
What a battle in race 1, the GTOpen International Championship. Nick Moss, Rima Jafali. There's Steve Jans going through. Franz Conrad, of course, the Austrian on his home circuit. Watch this as they race up the hill. They actually touch. We're getting a word from race control. There is debris on the circuit. Not from that incident, what we pointed out to you a few laps ago. The Mercedes side by side as Steve Jans slams it up the inside. That was an aggressive move. Did not brake until he was passed. Has gone through and taken the place for the moment. There's Franz Conrad. Martin Conrad, I should say. The Austrian driver. Former competitor in the German Formula 3 Championship. Multiple wins in the past in GTOpen International. He's in the top 10 at the moment. There's Nick Moss, Rima Jafali glued to the back of the Brit. Dino Steiner has come from a mile back, almost literally, to get on the back of this battle for the final places inside the top 10. Philip Barron, he's escaped. The Ferrari is quick here in Austria. Nick Moss up the inside. Conrad gets the momentum as they race down the hill. We've passed the 22-minute mark of race 1 here, so we're not too far off from the pit stop window. For the moment, the track is still just dry.
Yeah, Rima Jafali just making her way past Nick Moss in excellent style as well, managing to tag back after he overtook her heading up through Remus only a lap or so ago, as they now head through now the Roche and Wirth curves. There is Martin Conrad. Jafali right on his rear now. The Black Mamba, or certainly the Mamba, making its way through. and making its way now through the next left-hander as well. They've got Sector 3 coming up next. Nick Moss just a little bit further in behind as well. There's Nev Corsa as well, charging through, not far behind either. Dino Steiner, as you alluded to, making progress. Obviously, the new brakes working on the Aus Motorsport Audi, which is great to see, to say the least. Martin Conrad, though, still leading this contingent. Of course, could be another AM victory on the cards here for Alexander Rakowina and Martin Conrad very soon, as we now rejoin David Fuminelli. It feels like a little while since we've seen him. We have got yet another warning, certainly, for track limits to car number 63, that belonging to Ben Jahites. Again, around that infamous turn 10 and turn 9 as well. It seems to be plaguing the drivers so far this race. Obviously, they want to try and carry as much speed as possible, but obviously you've got to keep it within the limits, folks, and that's exactly what these drivers are trying to do. David Fuminelli still leading the way. Kranz, though, trying to worm his way through too, still holding on to that second place. Van Berlo a little bit further back from him, around 1.1 seconds behind, but there's a massive gap then to Fran Rueda, as now we're seeing them now make their way through past the back markers. They now head down in towards the next fast right, and this will lead them down through towards Red Bull Mobile Curve, where they'll then commence yet another lap.
Roman Simon in the Kessel Racing Ferrari does the right thing and moves out the way. We did get a glimpse of David Fuminelli early on in the race. His gap was 5. It was almost 6 seconds at one point. It's now down to 3.6. Moritz Kranz on your screen, position 2, is catching the Italian. Fastest driver on the circuit is down in 22nd place. His name, Michele Rugolo. He's still 2 laps down. In fact, 1 lap down. He's done a 1:30.9. He's 0.3 of a second faster. And Fuminelli, no 2 laps down. Effectively, he's out of the race, but he's still traveling incredibly quickly. One of the most experienced drivers in the field this weekend. What a disappointment. He was in the gravel, an ambitious move off the start, but he's lapping faster than anybody.
Yeah, he is. He had to come into the pit lane, unfortunately, and that, of course, led him to drop further down the grid as we now rejoin the battle between that of Jafali and Martin Conrad. Of course, Conrad partnering up with Alexander Rakowina this season. They've had wonderful success in the AM classification, and will look to continue that vein of form as well. They've done absolutely sensationally in that car, to say the least. They currently lead the championship as a pairing, but Jafali, who does not want to stay in behind as well, just tries to make her way through Remus, nearly tucked it up the inside and made her way through, but will have certainly the slipstream leading down towards Schloss Gold in behind Nick Moss. Once again, not far behind Jafali's car as they head down. Now Jafali, it looked like she might have tried the switchback as well, late on the brakes, but not this time.
Very late on the brakes was Reba Jafali, fighting there with Martin Conrad. Let's remember there's quite a few home drivers in this field. Martin Conrad is sharing the car with Alexander Rakowina, both 44 years of age, both from here in Austria. And they're inside the top 10, but Rima Jafali, she looks good. Gee, she was late under brakes coming down the back straight that time around.
Bit squirrely at that point. We all saw the brakes slammed on and she was a little bit wavy heading down through there.
For such a big car, the Mercedes stops incredibly well.
It does. It's absolutely brilliant, but certainly, to say the least, now more cars making their way through. They're just trying to dodge the traffic slightly. Steve Jans heading on through with Adam Osaka just ahead to get speeds tied together. Nick Moss also trying to continue and find his way through as well. And certainly as they head up down towards turn 1, there is Martin Conrad. This is going to complicate matters slightly with all the traffic that's out and about on circuit. Of course, you've got Michele Regulo, who's right in the heart of this as well, and he's running his own race right now, as you can see. The cars now make their way up towards Remus Corner. Conrad leading this contingent with Jafali in behind, Nick Moss as well, just closing on it, just trying to weave their way through. Dino Steiner's going to have the same predicament very shortly as well, but certainly now as we watch them, Michele Regulo going for the place this time on Stephen Earle, and has got past Stephen Earle as well. So the Kessel Racing car now behind that of Regulo, and certainly managed to rescue a lap back, and will try and continue this rich vein of form as Dino Steiner now plants his way down the inside of Schloss Gold.
With all due respect to the good doctor, that was a slam dunk. Michele Rugolo, who actually raced in Formula 3000 back in the day. Although, to give the doctor some credit, Stephen Earle, 5 times he won the Ferrari Challenge over in the United States of America. One of the finest spinal surgeons in the world, holding his own out here this afternoon. Rugolo goes through and takes him. This is the motor park car, which has generated so much interest here this weekend. Heiko Newman will hand over to Timo Ruvkale later on in the race as David Fuminelli goes through. Heiko down in 16th position, just ahead of Jedlinski, who's dropped back to 17th in the 777 car. Stephen Earl now behind Rugolo. Incidentally, Pro-M cars running 1 and 2. The first Pro car, position 3, is Glenn Van Berlo. And the gap between Fuminelli and Krantz, it is, well, 3.3 seconds. It was down to 2.9 a moment ago. Fuminelli now, he's got the fastest lap of the race, a 1:30.85. And he holds the lead of this race. We're not too far away from the pit stop window. It looked as though the heavens would open after about 12 minutes of this race. For the moment, it has held off. What a sight this is. This is, I can't think of a more picturesque circuit in the world. Spa's not bad. Of course, Bathurst in Australia, some of the circuits over in the United States. But wow, the Red Bull Ring is something else. And particularly, it is a sight when the clouds roll in over the hills in the Styrian countryside. It will rain imminently, we think. It's just a matter of if it will be within the pit stop window. Ideally, it will be.
Yeah, absolutely right. We're just seeing the cars now. One of them come in. This is, of course, Marcin Jedlinski, who will be swapping out for Karol Bash. So the change is on, folks. Driver change is on. So very first car in is Jedlinski. Karol Bash. Oh, Dino Steiner.
In the gravel.
Oh, dearie me. That's not good at all. Now, remember, I spoke about the brakes issue. They had to get some parts to come in from Munich. And unfortunately, now the car is beached in the gravel trap. In comes now the car belonging to Olymp Racing. None other than Leonardo Polcini will be stepping into that car instead of Ben Jahites. So they'll be primed and ready to jump back out as well. Coming in as well, Steve Jans. Rima Jafali also will be swapping in for Adam Christodoulou. Nick Moss with Joe Osborne as the pros now get into the car now as well. And more venturing in. There's Steve Jans. We can see him picture undertaking the pit stop. Very key. That's right here, Ian.
Well, they're all coming in. They have not waited, with the exception for the moment of David Fuminelli. Or do I speak too soon? No. The race leader has stayed out on the circuit, so new Michelin slick tyres going on. If it does rain, these drivers will be at an immense disadvantage, but they've obviously looked at the forecast. Obviously, they're not using the same iPhone app predicting the weather that we are as the safety car comes out onto the circuit.
Yeah, that'll be for...
They must know something else.
Yeah, it must be Dino Steiner, I think, at this point. Obviously, remember, he was beached up at the two left-handers leading around Roche and Verth Curve. Obviously, can't get the car started. Perhaps the safety car might be out. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled. It certainly is out. But obviously, David Fuminelli still leads at this point. This is ideal for those who have already boxed just now. They've timed it to perfection to a degree, and it means that they can now catch up with Fuminelli. So it exposes the Kessel Racing Ferrari at this point. Christodoulou's now making his way out onto the circuit as I'm looking out at my commentary box, and many more of them as well making necessary changes as we can now see them making their way out. There's the motor park car that we just saw as well. The Audi safety car, though, leading them through, and there you can see David Fuminelli leading the contingent. Glenn Van Berlo still there as well. Fran Rueda as more and more cars venture in. Adam Osaka as well, and they'll all be making their necessary changes. Drivers will be stepping in. Timo Rumpkiel is also in the car for Motor Park. And as we're now looking at Skypan pictures there, you can see Joe Osborne just in behind, now in the car as well, in place of Nick Ross. And Kiki Sagnana will be jumping in the car as well for Adam Osaka. A wonderful character, Kiki Sagnana, always a smile on his face, and lights up the paddock every time you meet him. What a character. Marco
Antonelli getting into his own race car. About 9 or 10 cars actually had dived down into pit lane before Dino Steiner had beached the Audi. Fuminelli, well, he could be a hero or he could go to zero. If it does rain and if he stays out, everyone else will have to pit twice. He's got no choice but to try and stretch it. Stays out once again. Fuminelli, if it does not rain, it will at some point, almost inevitably. The sky is very dark, and when it rains here at the Red Bull Ring, it rains hard. Let's check the order as best we can for the moment. Fuminelli has got the race lead from Moritz Krantz, Van Berlo, Rueda, Barron, Conrad, and Marco Antonelli, the first driver to, well, the first co-driver, if we can use that, the first second driver. The first car which has stopped is in position 7, taking over from Florian Schultz. So the first 6 cars have stayed out. There's no rain on the windscreen for the moment. Who can predict the weather best? That is the question. They'll take it right to the edge of the pit stop window, because if it does, well, it's Mitchell and Wets on straight away. But for the moment, Marco Antonelli, he's looking good. The safety car to come in at the end of this lap. Fulminelli will go as hard as he possibly can, you would think. The 44, Greystone McLaren, Fran Rueda, handing over that car to Andrew Gilbert, the Brit. So now it gets interesting. We pass the halfway point. Race 1, round 5 here at the Red Bull Ring. Still under threatening skies, but for the moment, the track is dry. Fulminelli, Krantz, the gap was 5 seconds, then it was 3.3 seconds. Now it's nothing. The safety car evaporates the lead that the Italian had on Moritz Krantz in the 9 Mercedes. As the safety car prepares to pull into pit lane at the end of this lap. It looks as though Dino Steiner has managed to get out of the gravel, and in fact he's still circulating in 12th place, just ahead of Adam Christodoulou. Joe Osborne has taken over the wheel of the 72 Optimum Motorsport McLaren. Look for a storming drive from Joe. And Michele Rugolo, he's actually stayed out for the moment. He's in 15th place. Could he perform a miracle and drag himself back into contention? We know he's quick, as is the Ferrari, who will lead them away, being driven by David Fulminelli. Down into pit lane, Moritz Krantz. The green flag in flies. The safety car in pit lane. We race green once again. Fulminelli tries to pull away as best as he can and stretch it until he pulls into the pits for his compulsory stop. Moritz Krantz down into pit lane. Let's watch this. Stops early, in fact. Janine will take over the wheel from Moritz.
Laurent De Meo's coming in as well. Johnny Mowlin will be taking his place, and they'll be venturing back out onto the track. But you can see them all now once again in tandem. There's the Greystone GT car. Andrew Gilbert jumping in for Fran Rueda, who has been guiding this young driver here this weekend, the young Brit. Learning from the experience of Fran Rueda, and there certainly is plenty of it. And Greystone GT looking for a good start to their very first GTOpen event this season. Martin Conrad and Alexander Harakuina have also swapped for the man-filtered Team Landgraf car. Of course, that Mercedes now in the pit lane, as we now see David Fulminelli heading down into the double left-handers. He's still yet to stop. Will have to eventually, as we have the driver change ending in 12 minutes and 20 seconds or so. There's Janine Schaffner, throttle down, out she goes. She's now going to be making her way towards the pit exit, as now we can see the cars now make their way in towards the latter stages of this lap. There you can see further back, the cars now filtering their way through. Benjahites trying to do everything he can in order to close the gap. Or now, sorry, should I say, it's he's made that necessary driver change, and they're going to be battling, certainly to say the least, Leonardo Polcini trying to find his way through. There is, of course, Glenn Van Berlo, we just saw in picture. Carol Bash just netted the fastest lap so far, and remember, he swapped out, or swapped in, for Marcin Jedlinski. So a good showing already from Carol Bash, very, very quick indeed in the Audi. We're now seeing them make their way up towards Remus yet again. This time it's David Fulminelli, who's now got to try and negotiate his way through some drivers ahead of him. There you can see the contingent coming through as well. Adam Christodoulou getting really sharp as well in behind. Marco Antonelli is now seeing more and more cars filter their way through yet again. There is Carol Bash, and indeed it looks like he might be looking to make a serious move here himself. Makes his way down in towards the next right and gets ahead of Fulminelli, I believe. He's moving his way forward. I think this might be a case that he's trying to unlap himself at this point, and has done very, very well indeed. He needs the pace, needs to push onwards. Of course, Fulminelli still yet to stop.
George, he's certainly got the pace. Carol Bash, a 1:30.37. He's down in 18th place, but he has stopped, unlike the lead 1:33 Ferrari of David Fulminelli. A couple of drivers to look out for as we near, well, we're partway through the pit stop window, but we've got some superstars out on the track at the moment, as you've got a very quick glimpse of a very dark sky in the background. Leonardo Pulcini, car 63, the Oregon Lamborghini on your screen. Euro Formula Open champion from 2016, a race winner in GP3 as well. Adam Christodoulou, he takes over from Rima Trufali in the FIBA Motorsport car. Carol Bash, that we just mentioned, and he's on your screen now, the 2015 World Cup racing champion. Incidentally, on the podium that day, none other than Nicholas Nielsen, the former Spa 24-hour winner. Janine runs wide, and the off-ring curves. No harm done. We'll see where she rejoins and tries to find some rhythm. So half of the field have stopped and half haven't. Benjamin Hites in car, Glenn Van Berlo in car 19. Goes defensive as they race down the back straight, so we have passed more than half race distance, still inside the pit stop window, and still David Fuminelli praying for it to rain before he hands over to Murat as late as possible. A replay of the Oregon Lamborghini going up the hill with one of the Ferraris. In fact, it was the 73 Kessel racing car of Roman Simon, or perhaps not, it was in fact Axel Jeffries. So the former Dubai 24-hour winner, the Zimbabwean, has taken over the wheel of car 73. Another star driver as well. Also raced in the past in GP2 Indy Lights in America, as we mentioned. A former winner of the Dubai 24-hour race. Just runs wide though, and Fuminelli continues on, praying for it to rain, but for the moment the track is still dry. He's got the race lead from Glenn Van Berlo. Philip Barron has still held on. He's in position 3. As you see, Glenn Van Berlo will move up the inside and try and move past one of the Mercedes. There's Carol Bash at the bottom of your screen, the superbly presented 777 car, as we see the 182 Ferrari pull down into pit lane. Willem van der Voort, sharing 14th position at the moment, sharing the car with Michele Rugolo. So what a comeback, what a fight back from Michele Rugolo, who steps out of the car to hand over to Willem, who steps up from the Ferrari Challenge Championship of the past few seasons. The 2 Oregon Lamborghinis on your screen at the moment. Car 63, Leonardo Pulcini, the very highly rated Italian driver. Almost single-seater race. And his teammate just ahead, Glenn Van Berlo, still in second place.
Yeah, Glenn Van Berlo holding on to second. There is Silly Pulcini not far off, leading the category there that have already boxed. Now seeing certainly some side-by-sides there as well. Alexander Hrakoina right in the thick of it is now Joe Osborne, works his way through as well. Not to mention Andrew Gilbert, who is certainly trying to find his way through, but once again pouncing here. Joe Osborne trying to fight his way through this field, carving his way through, should I say, and has done so brilliantly. Further back, you can see Hrakoina, who has also got Philip Barron just in behind as well. All this contingent are all mixed up. Some have pitted, some haven't, as they now head down in towards the final corner. Further back, you can see still more movements as well, as we're seeing them nose to tail yet again. And you can see the Team GT car further back as well, the SPS Performance automotive car as well, switching to the inside and the outside now. Once again, Philip Barron, outside line, heading in towards turn 1. Can he get himself through past Alexander Hrakoina? This complicates matters again, surely, but he manages to get through, manages to get past certainly that plethora of cars that were just ahead of him. And now he's got Andrew Gilbert next on his list further up as well, as we're seeing more cars flash on through. They've got Remus up next, and Kiki Sagnana is right in the heart of this as well. He goes side by side with an Olymp Ferrari as they now power out through, now down towards Schloss Gold. God, it's chaotic in that part of the field there, Ian.
Certainly is, George. Kiki Sagnana means business here this afternoon. Runs wide, they're side by side down the back straight, the 2 Mercedes. The tie looks good. He tries to go by, and this battle rages on. As we near the end of the pit stop window, Fuminelli has still stayed out, as has Van Berlo. And Philip Barron still in position 3, the AM driver on your screen, defending for his life under threatening skies at the Red Bull Ring. Fantastic driving from Philip Barron. Qualified 3rd as the Greystone McLaren is turned around.
Yeah, that's Andrew Gilbert. He just got caught in the rear. He's got flicked. There's damage on the car. We saw it just fly off. And now this has opened the door potentially for yet the battle between Alexander Hrakoina and Kiki Sagnana to once again come about. Kiki Sagnana, though, able to hang on. But this was the moment heading through the next left. And it was a nudge in the rear. Wow. And Olymp Ferrari was in the midst of that. And that caused Andrew Gilbert to spin on the second left-hander. But yeah, unfortunately, did well to keep it out of the gravel. I think he managed to do just that. Here we ride on board with Andrew Gilbert.
Watch this. Oh, wow. He was in 9th position. And contact air with the pole, Christian Kozanowski. We believe it was in car 5, the second Olympic racing entry. Well, that is disappointing. There is damage to the McLaren. Back with us in GTOpen International. Has managed to rejoin. He's in position 15 behind Dominic Schrammel and Timo Rumpfkel. Max Hoffer behind Carol Bash, 777 in 17th place. As you look at Marco Antonelli, he's in position 9, almost. Kiki Sacknana goes in very deep. The tie tried to go by, can't do it. And the veteran Italian racer closes the door on the tie. Behind Alexander Hruakoina, Yannick Mettler, Timo Rumpfkel, Dominic Schrammel, Andrew Gilbert in the Greystone McLaren has rejoined. He's in position 15.
Yeah, Yannick Mettler moving up into 11th place, getting ahead there of Alexander Hruakoina. So really starting to make some moves and try and marshal his approach certainly here at this point. He's actually gone ahead there of Kiki Sacknana, I believe, looking further up. No, it was indeed, yeah, it was Hruakoina who's just in behind, and he's got certainly the, what was formerly Laurent de Meus there in the that particular AF Corsa Ferrari with the Kessel racing car that was formerly driven by Stephen Earle as well, making its way through the final corner. They've got now the long straight. There's Yannick Mettler coming up now towards Kiki Sacknana, up towards turn 1. He's going to look to open the door inside line. The gap just wasn't there. Kiki able to hold on, but runs out wide. Yannick Mettler, though, not quite close enough in order to catch him on the outset.
That will certainly cost Yannick Mettler momentum as he goes up the hill. He's lost about, what, 5 or 6 car lengths there. Now the field starts to settle in a rhythm. Fulminelli has still stayed out, as has Van Berlo. Leonardo Pulcini, we told you to watch. The 63 Oregon Lamborghini, he's in 3rd place. Janine Schaffner, she's in 4th. And the young French driver, Sebastien Baud, in the 911 gets beat Mercedes in position 5 at the moment. Adam Christodoulou as the Kessel Racing team wait. Down in pit lane, that was Murat, waiting still to hand over. David Fulminelli. Well, they'll be pouring buckets of water over the track if it does not rain soon. It looks as though the tactic is not going to pay off. The track for the moment is still dry with just over 25 minutes remaining in race 1 here at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, just hearing now that car 5 has got to report to race control. So that's Christian Korzynowski, no doubt in relation to the tag with Gilbert that we saw earlier on as well. So we'll have to keep our ears peeled as to what happens with that one. The driver change is due to end in just over 2.5 minutes. So Fulminelli is going to have to box very, very shortly regardless. Van Berlo just in behind, he'll have to box as well. So that effectively, depending on how long the pit stops will take, Pulcini could very likely take the lead of this race. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled though, folks. A lot can happen, certainly here in the International GTOpen, as we're now watching the cars once again make their way down towards Losh Gold. There's Fulminelli, Van Berlo not far behind, approximately 1.5 seconds, as now we see once again, this time Kiki Sacknana, Yannick Mettler, this time recovering to make the move on the Get Speed Performance Mercedes, and it's the SPS Performance Mercedes that makes his way through and heads on ahead of Kiki Sacknana into 10th spot as well. So a great opportunity for some points to be scored here for SPS, as we now see the cars all make their way down, and now Kiki Sacknana again looking to the outside line this time at Slosh Gold. Will he be able to get the overspeed? Not quite enough. The inside line was the better line, certainly for Yannick Mettler, as you'd expect, and he holds on. Christodoulou also jumping ahead of Janine Schaffner. He's gone up into 5th.
George, it looks as though the Oregon Motorsport team have played a masterstroke here, as finally the race leader, David Fulminelli, comes down into pit lane. They have left Glenn Van Berlo out on the circuit as long as they possibly could, although he follows in Fulminelli into pit lane now. Pulcini, he pitted early. He was in 3rd place. As you look at the race leader down in the box, Pulcini, the 2nd Oregon car, has now taken over the race lead. Glenn Van Berlo steps out of the car. Kevin Gilardoni steps in, and the Oregon Motorsport team, they're looking good. Fulminelli, he's done an almighty stint in the first part of this race, 29 laps. As the sun comes out to shine, would you believe, on a certain part of the circuit, going up into turn 3. It is very dark in the back part of the circuit. As we see Joe Osborne, he's up into 6th place as well. Don't discount the Optimum Motorsport McLaren. Joe from the British GT Championships, as well as with us in the GTOpen International Championship in the last few seasons. Adam Christodoulou is the next one ahead, so the Brits about to race. They get very close to each other. It's only, well, there he is. There is Adam Christodoulou going through in the Saudi Arabian-owned Theba Motorsport Mercedes. The sun is shining in this part of the circuit. We were expecting rain. It did rain after 12 minutes of the race. Fulminelli has handed over to Murat Giadaroglu. Kevin Gilardoni in the 19 Oregon car, sideways on the exit of pit lane. And we'll see where they slot in. Still got the race lead for the moment on lap 30 of race 1.
Yeah, the lap down certainly is the difference maker. Certainly, we obviously saw that Polcini had a little bit to find, but he's out in the car now, currently sat in 3rd place. This is still a huge opportunity for Oregon Racing. They've got 2 cars currently in the top 3, so this is a very good position for them to be in. Murat Giadaroglu is going to be very wary of that fact, with Gilardoni now pressing in behind as well. Sebastian Bau as well in 4th place, with Christodoulou in 5th. Christodoulou will be looking for that Pro-Am win. Of course, he'll need to try and close up to Murat Giadaroglu, but you'd firmly expect a driver such as Adam Christodoulou to put the hammer down, certainly in that Mercedes. Joe Osborne also out on track, will be chasing him too, with Janine Schaffner, as we're now seeing pictures of Gilardoni getting closer and closer, and he is going to try and go side by side with Giadaroglu. They've got sector 3 now to take as they make their way under the banner. They've got a right-hander, a very fast-paced one at that, as well as Gilardoni goes hunting down the inside. Now Giadaroglu has to leave the door open, and in goes Gilardoni to the front. He leads here at Austria. With him behind as well, Karel Basch trying to gain as well. He's trying to move his way up the field. He's got a lot of lapping to do as well. Cars all over the place here, but it's Gilardoni who leads the race here at Austria.
Nicely done by Kevin Gilardoni. There's Basch going through as well. Murat Giadaroglu trying to find some rhythm. The Oregon team, they still do lead, and they're in 3rd place as well with Leonardo Polcini. Sebastian Bourd, the young French driver, P4. Christodoulou in P5. And we'll see. We'll take a look at this replay first. Murat just getting into the 153 Ferrari, and Kevin Gilardoni lined him up into the Jochen curves. Murat did the right thing, but had to concede the lead. And Gilardoni has now pulled away. He's got 1.6 seconds over the Turk Polcini. So Oregon 1 and 3. Sebastian Bourd, the 22-year-old French driver. Adam Christodoulou is behind Sebastian in the Get Speed car. Osborne, Schaffner, Mettler. Then we go to Ernest Kirschmeier. Marco Antonelli in position 10, just ahead of Kiki Saknena. Alexander Ruakoina, one of the Austrian drivers, in one of the numerous Mercedes. They are absolutely everywhere here this afternoon in round 5 of the GTOpen International Championship. Just over 20 minutes to race here, incredibly, in the sunshine. The Michelin wets, we haven't seen them yet.
No, we haven't needed them at this point. Yannick Mettler, though, I just want to make a comment about his gains. 14 places gained for Yannick Mettler. 8th place currently in this classification. He has been making a huge charge. He himself, Dexter Fuller, as well as teammates, a wonderful charge they have been on indeed. There is Leonardo Polcini, who is certainly looking to try and close the gap on Murat Giadaroglu as they head now up towards turn 1. Of course, he's got the certainly the car that's ahead of him. Erwin Zanotti also making his way around, trying to close up. This is Axel Jeffries, though, in the Kessel Racing Ferrari that Polcini has got to try and negotiate himself by. And there you can see further up as well, up the road, Giadaroglu was going to try and keep Polcini in behind. We all know what Polcini's like. He is certainly a sensational driver. Has competed in certainly Lamborghinis for a long, long time. Knows this car inside and out. Makes his way out to the Remus corner now. Will beckon his way down towards Schloss Gold. We'll need to try and get ahead of Axel Jeffries at this point. But Axel Jeffries himself, a very, very fast driver indeed. As we now see the cars work their way through. Giadaroglu has lost time, around 4.5 seconds in the last lap. That just goes to show Polcini's pace.
Gee, really hasn't found the rhythm yet, has the Turkish driver. A couple of drivers, you mentioned Axel Jeffries, he's behind Karel Basch, 2 of the more talented drivers in the field, with all due respect. They're down in 16th and 17th positions. We'll see if they can come charging through in the remaining 18 minutes of this race. Kevin Gilardoni has got the race lead. Giadaroglu, I won't say he's a sitting duck, that would be disrespectful, but we'll see if he can hold on to the podium. He's got Leonardo Polcini, the 2016 Euro Formula Open champion, breathing down his neck. Well, not literally yet, but he will chase him down.
We've had a decision on the Christian Korzanowski incident with Gilbert. Of course, 10-second time penalty to be added to the race time, causing a collision with car number 44. and that is belonging to that of Andrew Gilbert. So, of course, they've got some recompense for the incident earlier on. Of course, they would have rather have the track position that they had, I would have thought, but nevertheless, a penalty going towards him, indeed, Christian Kozanowski, car number 5. As we're now seeing Adam Christodoulou make his way through. Paul Cheney has now managed to get up into second place. He's got ahead of Chiradaroglu for that second spot. Christodoulou trying to gain on Sebastian Boe now for that 4th spot. Christodoulou absolutely throwing hammer and tongs, as we now see this time Paul Cheney and Axel Jeffries coming together. Of course, Axel Jeffries not content with giving any positions despite being where he is out on track. Paul Cheney knows that he's got a bigger job afoot, and that is tracking down his teammate Kevin Gillardoni. The 2 Oregon cars, Ps1 and 2, a bucket load of points going to Oregon as things stand. That's
an incredible performance from the Oregon team. That would have really hurt Axel Jeffries as well. Wants the outright victory here this afternoon, but that looks very unlikely. The multicolored cars, the Lamborghinis, they run 1 and 2. We've just had some news as well, folks. Cars that entered the pit lane to cover the handicap stop during the safety car procedure are under investigation, so that could cause a major upset, certainly to that of the grid. We've had quite a few cars that came in during the safety car procedure, and it could be the case that if they did serve their handicaps at that point, it wasn't allowed according to the stewards. So if that's the case, there could be a few cars who might have attempted that could face punishment. We'll have to wait and see, but obviously that could cause a right stir in this classification at this point, as Marco Antonelli moves up to 9th. That may even hurt our race leaders. We'll wait for word from race control, as we have just over 16 minutes to race. The Oregon team 1 and 2 for the moment. The 2 Italians, Gillardoni and Paul Cheney. We take a look at the replay further back in the pack. This is what caused Rueda to go around, and the subsequent 10-second penalty to the young Polish driver, Christian Kozanowski, who's down in 23rd place behind Willem van der Voort, the former Ferrari Challenge racer. Aries Rimatrifali, the Theba Motorsport team. Try and listen in. No chance as these GT3 cars come thundering by. Well, it is still dry. That is a surprise here this afternoon. Sorry, George, just sidetracked because we've got word from race control that all the handicap times are okay, so nothing to worry about. Thankfully for our race leaders, the Oregon team, they still run 1 and 2. Adam Christodoulou on your screen, P5. Sebastian Boe going through in the 911 Mercedes. So it's Lamborghini 1 and 2. And the Mercedes, they make up almost half the field, but they're in 3 and 4 at the moment. And 5 as well with Adam Christodoulou. Joe Osborne, position 6 in the McLaren, ahead of Janine Schaffner. She's doing a good job. P3 in the Pro-Am category as well, ahead of Yannick Mettler. And the first N-Class car is Marco Antonelli in position 9. It's absolutely brilliant. Yannick Mettler, once again, we always said, I said it earlier on as well, that SPS performance car always tends to find itself battling with Janine Schaffner and that of Moritz Kranz as well. Absolutely impeccable, but certainly they'll be going toe-to-toe again here in the closing stages of this race at Austria. You can see in the background there, Adam Christodoulou trying to work hard to close up to that of Sebastian Boe. Now, this is a battle that will be developing. Joe Osborne also bringing himself into the fight, and he's managed to nestle in such a huge amount of time against that of Christodoulou and Sebastian Boe. So Osborne absolutely flying here at this point. 1.1 seconds away of that of Christodoulou. Christodoulou 1.1 behind that of Sebastian Boe, who's done a tremendous job to hold on. Mettler has got past Janine Schaffner as well for that 7th place. So Yannick Mettler on a charge. He is behind Joe Osborne currently as things stand. 7th place now for Mettler, and he's got 15.5 seconds to find on the Brit Joe Osborne. There you can see Christian Kozanowski there in the background as we're seeing Joe Osborne head through this next left as they now venture through Roche Curve, Verth Curve up next. And there you have it, folks. It's all a battle. Take a look at the replay up the inside. Is there contact? Oh boy, you bet. Kikisak Nana running into the side of the Ferrari. No harm done. The Ferrari does rejoin. George, just getting back to this battle. Yes, it is still on our screen. This may well develop into the final step of the outright podium, because they are catching Chiradaroglu by an incredible rate. They've taken another 2 seconds out of the Turkish driver, who is still leading the Pro-Am category. There's some 1 to 2, even at times 3 seconds a lap faster. So Sebastian Boe Adam Christodoulou and Joe Osborne. Those three drivers are fighting at the moment for positions 4, 5 and 6. They are getting closer to each other and as well to the Turk. Driving car 133, the Ferrari still in position 3.
Yeah, we've still got a battle for the Pro-Am and the Am categories. Marco Antonelli, who currently leads the Am, has got Kiki Saknana just in behind, a second behind of that of Marco Antonelli, but also the Pro-Am, because of course Chiradaroglu currently sitting third overall. He currently leads the Pro-Am category, with Christodoulou closing up as well. As we're now watching Andrew Gilbert, of course now with Gilardoni now making his way through. Of course Gilardoni leads outright. Polcini, though, closing at a matter of every moment. 4.1 seconds is the sole gap. We could have a barnstormer of a finish here at this point. Of course, the battle's still on for the Pro win, not to mention the Pro-Am win as well with Chiradaroglu, and he's got Sebastian Boe catching up with him time and time again, 3.1, and of course Christodoulou, who's on for that Pro-Am win, 1.1 seconds behind Sebastian Boe. So if he can stay in the slipstream, keep your eyes peeled, we could have still a battle for all three categories before the end of this race.
Just over 12 minutes remaining, and Janine Schaffner, who's doing a great job in position 8, has just been told, last warning, Janine, and that is for that cursed track limits. Next time round, and it will be a penalty if she does violate that rule, that contentious rule. As you look at Marco Antonelli in car 17, P9, and the first AM driver. Kiki Saknana just ahead, and Ernest Kirschmeier in position 10 outright. Gilardoni 3.8 seconds to Pulcini, still the Oregon team at 1 and 2. Sebastian Ball has caught right up to the back of Murat Chiradaroglu, Adam Christodoulou and Joe Osborne. They've got enough time. They've been catching him at 1 to 2 seconds per lap, and it's only a matter of time before the Turkish driver, that's the M in the Pro-Am combination, will be passed. We have to say, with all due respect, Sebastian, Adam and Joe will take him.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. There is Kiki Saknana, and he's got certainly cars peppering him in behind as well, as we now see them make their way down through towards Schloss Goal. Marco Antonelli leading this contingent. Özkök Meyer there in behind with Kiki Saknana. Alexander Rakowina as well, patiently waiting in behind. So now make their way through. They've got the next left coming up shortly. Owen Zanotti right in the middle of this too. He's further down. He's currently sat in 21st place behind Johnny Mowlin, but there's quite a gap there, 5.6 seconds. Now you see Kiki holding on to his position. Alexander Rakowina is going to want to try and get past that of Owen Zanotti as well in order to reignite his battle with Kiki Saknana as they head down now into the final sector this time. With just over 10 minutes still to go. Gilardoni still leads. As you can now see, once again, Kiki Zanotti just having a look, hovering, trying to look for moves on him this time.
The Ferrari is quick.
Sensational indeed. And this is involving Andrew Gilbert. And this is also, by the looks of it, Axel Jeffries as well in the Kessel Racing Ferrari, rubbing onto the turf, kicking up the grass and the soil. Nice little bit of aggression there from Andrew Gilbert. Incredible.
Well, he was ahead. He can put the car where he likes. Axel Jeffries was looking for a way by. Sebastian Bord now. It's only a matter of time. There is Murat just ahead, down the inside as they race down the hill. Christodoulou in the background, and Sebastian takes position 3 outright. Yeah, nice move by Sebastian Bord. There is Christodoulou. He'll take him inevitably. They've both dropped off. Joe Osborne, but he's got the speed as well. In the 72 Optimum Motorsport, McLaren will try and make a move. Look at the sky, it's still dark in the background, but for the moment, the track is still dry. Murat from position 3 outright, drops down to 4th, drops down to 5th. Imminently, it will be 6th position as well, as the 72 McLaren of Joe Osborne comes raging up behind the Turk in the Ferrari, which led most of the race in the hands of David Fulminelli. Under 10 minutes remaining in race 1. Here in Austria, Osborne up the inside, not this time. Murat holds him off as they race up the hill. Gilardoni, Pulcini, Sebastian Bord in 3rd place. Adam Christodoulou 1 step off the podium. The Lamborghinis at 1 and 2, the Mercedes in 3 and 4. A replay of how Sebastian took the final step of the podium. A move up the inside, and he simply drove by the Turk back into position 4.
Great move indeed, heading through the Roche and Verth curves, but also Adam Christodoulou overtaking Murat Çağrıoğlu. This is the moment, and this is effectively handed him now the Pro-Am lead at this point. He's got the Pro-Am lead ahead of that of Murat Çağrıoğlu. So a very big move indeed for Christodoulou, and I'm sure Rima Trifali will be absolutely thrilled with that. Yet another Pro-Am effectively on the table for FIBA Motorsport. And we've still got a fight now for the AM category win as well, with Marco Antonelli and Ernest Kirkmeyer coming together. 6/10 is all that separates that pairing. So I tell you what, fireworks before the end of this one as Joe Osborne moves up into 5th ahead of Murat Çağrıoğlu as well. As you see pan pictures, look at Polcini, 3.2 away from the lead. Make that 3. He's closing on Gilardoni.
Gilardoni, the race leader, the championship leader as well, with Glenn Van Berlo. In the dying stages of race 1, midfield runners in the past few seasons, and wow, what a 2022 the Italian team is having. Gilardoni, position 1, former Formula Renault champion back in 2012. Pulcini, car 63, P2. The gap between the two teammates, 2.9 seconds. As Gilardoni races down the back straight, Sebastian Board, he's 16 seconds behind. He won't catch the leaders unless something drastic happens in the remaining stages, the dying stages of race 1 of 2, here in round 5 of the International GTOpen Championship. Sebastian Board, the gap between himself and Adam Christodoulou is still virtually nothing, only 0.6 of a second. At the end of this 70-minute race, we come back tomorrow to race for 60 minutes. They are on lap 39 of this 70-minute race. The gap, 2.9 seconds. Oregon team, what a storied career they have raced just about everything from Renault Clio Cup, also Formula Renault. Some storied drivers as well. As we look at Zach Kiki-Saknena, it certainly looks as though the tie goes by. And the Jochen Ring curves, brings it back on track. A nervous moment for the tie from the Thailand Super Series. Down in Asia, as George mentioned, always a smile on his face. He's driven very strongly here this afternoon, just outside the top 10 now, in position 13 behind Timo Rundkale. Alexander Rakowina in position 11, also trying to break inside the top 10. So the pro cars, 1, 2, and 3, Gilardoni, Pulcini, Sebastian Bold, and then Adam Christodoulou. He is leading the Pro-Am category in the FIBA Motorsport Mercedes together with Rima Trifali. 2.4 seconds. Pulcini is catching his teammates. There is Adam Christodoulou. Has raced just about everything there is to race over the past 2 decades. Single-seaters, World Kart racing as well, along with GT3 over the past few seasons. He's a step off the outright podium. Sebastian Boll, 22 years of age, the young French driver, racing in the Le Mans Cup in LMP3 machinery in the past few seasons. Took a victory in the French Formula 4 series a couple of years ago. He's running P3 outright, as well as in the pro category here this afternoon. And also, out of the 10 Mercedes AMG GT3s, he's the first of the German cars. Comes up on the back of Andrew Gilbert, who's had an eventful race here this afternoon. Can't quite go by Andrew Gilbert in car 44, and that allows Adam Christodoulou to close in on the back of him. Less than 5 minutes remaining in race 1. Christodoulou is right there. Sebastian tries to cover him off, drives Adam almost into the wall. Incredibly, Andrew Gilbert has still held the place, but now gives way. Sebastian Bolt off the circuit almost, and now tries to drive Adam into the grass. Once again, they're side by side as they race up the hill. They touch. Watch Osborne in the background in the 72 McLaren. He senses his opportunity to go by not 1, but 2 Mercedes in the background. He's turned around. Moss comes together with Sebastian Boll, and Adam Christodoulou is gone. Wow, Andrew Gilbert gets a front row seat of a spectacular moment in the dying stages of race 1. Still this battle rages on. Sebastian on the outside, they still touch. And a move down the inside, Korzanowski just tries to stay out of the way in the 5 Olymp Racing Ferrari. The AM driver says, what on earth is going on here? This is turning into a NASCAR race. This is turning messy here this afternoon. Sebastian versus Joe, no love lost between the French and the British drivers. Christodoulou, position 3, P1 in Pro-Am, capitalizes. Take a look at this, side by side, the two Mercedes up the hill. Adam Christodoulou, the right side, Michelin tyres in the grass. Went in deep, Joe Osborne up the inside. Oh, wow. Turns Sebastian around, can I say, and then straightens him back up. Korsanowski, what on earth is going on here, says the poll. Bang. Days of thunder as Rima Jufali and the Thiba Motorsport team watch on. Oh, I hope you cannot lip read. Gilardoni and Pulcini, they still run 1 and 2. Unaware of what has happened here. 2.3 seconds between the two teammates. Christodoulou, position 1 in Pro-Am and P3 outright. He's now the first Mercedes. Inevitably, word immediately from race control. That incident is now under investigation. Joe Osborne, position 4. Sebastian Ball, position 5. Murat Dradaroglu is in position 6, holding his own. He's finally found some rhythm, and he's in P2 outright in the Pro-Am category ahead of Yannick Mettler. Janine Schaffner, Marco Antonelli, position 9, still leads the AM category. And Ernest Kirschmeier rounds out the top 10. We expect the next to be the penultimate lap of the race, still waiting from word for race control. The Oregon team, what a performance, almost 2 decades in motorsport, in just about every category there is to race. Formula 3, Formula Renault, Clio Cup, and GT3 in the past few seasons. As we mentioned earlier on, they've gone from being a midfield team, with all due respect, in the Italian GT Championship. They now run 1-2 outright in the International GTOpen Championship, and they lead the championship as well. The rain, which was forecast, which we thought was inevitable in the early stages, there were a few drops at the 12-minute mark. It has not eventuated. Leonardo Pulcini, the 2016 Euro Formula Open champion, in position 2, a fantastic drive. And the same can be said for his teammate Kevin Gilardoni, who's in position 1. So we believe this is the penultimate lap. Waiting for word from race control. We're keeping one eye out the window. Comes through the Jochen Rindt curve, so next time round, possibly even more. The gap down to 2.1 seconds. Gilardoni is controlling the pace. A stunning performance for the multicolored Lamborghini team. Well, there were 10 Mercedes in the field here this afternoon. The Ferrari started 1, 2, 3. We expected a big effort from the McLarens, the best of the British supercars. He's in position 4 in controversial circumstances. That is Joe Osborne. The 2 Audis, which have almost an identical engine to the Lamborghinis, the screaming 5-litre V10, which is on its last lap now. The Lamborghinis, they run 1 and 2. The Italian supercar from Bologna, leading here in Austria. The Oregon team, Gilardoni is now on his last lap. The Oregon team, they can afford to smile down in the box. Gilardoni, the gap drops to 1.9 seconds. He's controlling the pace on the 45th lap of this 70-minute race. Pulcini into second place. Christodoulou will come home in position 3, the Brit. And Joe Osborne in the first McLaren in the background in position 4 and 3rd in the Pro class. The dying stages of race 1, the GTOpen International Championship, round 5 of the 2022 series. The Italian team have come and dominated here at the Red Bull Ring. Kevin Gilardoni takes that checkered flag. Pulcini in second. Oregon team come home in positions 1 and 2. What a performance, what a race, what a victory. What a team effort from Team Oregon. They dominate the opening race. This is Adam Christodoulou. Theba Motorsport, Rima Jufali, she started the race. And the Saudi-owned Mercedes, the first of the 10 Mercedes in the race, home in third place, and with the Pro-Am victory as well. You can smile, Rima. Adam has done superbly. Brings it home on the podium outright. And with the category victory as well. We wait for Antonelli. We believe that Marco, the 58-year-old from Bologna, will take victory in the M category. As the rest of the cars cross the line, Murat Juadaroglu has done a great stint. The AM driver to come home in position 6, second in the Pro-Am category, ahead of Yannick Mettler. Janine Schaffner crosses the line in position 8, fourth in the Pro-Am category. And Marco Antonelli takes victory in the M class. Huge congratulations to Adam Christodoulou and Rima Jufali, who does smile, the Theba Motorsport team, P3 outright, and with victory in the Pro-Am category, but outright, Kevin Gilardoni, Leonardo Pulcini, 1-2 for Team Oregon. They take the victory and the class win as well. Glenn Van Berlo started that race before handing over to Kevin. And look at that, the Oregon team first and second here at the Red Bull Ring. Ben Yahites, Leonardo Pulcini in second, Rima Jufali, Adam Christodoulou, Moss, Osborne, Sebastian Ball comes home P5. Juadaroglu second in the Pro-Am category, Muller, Mettler, Schaffner, Kranz, and Florian Schultz with Marco Antonelli take victory in the AM category. Dino Steiner, they'll be very relieved with that, the Aust Motorsport team. They take P10 with Max Hofer as well. So the championship looks like this. Glenn Van Berlo and Kevin Gilardoni, 96 points, so 10 points the difference to Nick Moss and Joe Osborne. So that fourth place was critical here this afternoon. Hides and Pulcini for Oregon, they're third in the series. The most colourful GT3 cars in the world. I'm quickly trying to think if that statement holds true. Certainly here at the Red Bull Ring, Gilardoni and Van Berlo take the victory at the Red Bull Ring, round 5 of the GTOpen International Championship. Gilardoni crosses the line. The victory in the end, 1.5 seconds, controlled the pace. Swiss flag on his car, a Swiss license for the Italian driver. Well, Swiss-Italian from the very north of Italy, somewhere near the border. Takes the victory along with the Dutchman Glenn Van Berlo here this afternoon. The rain, which was forecast, never eventuated. And the Oregon team, they finished 1-2 here this afternoon. Christodoulou and Rima Jufali, P1 in Pro-Am and P3 outright in the Theba Motorsport Mercedes, the first of the 10 Mercedes home here this afternoon. Benjamin Hites from Santiago in Chile and Leonardo Pulcini, the Italian, P2. Glenn Van Berlo, the Dutchman, flying here this afternoon. Kevin Gilardoni, they take the victory and the class win and consolidate their lead in the GTOpen International Championship. They're down in pit lane. The Michelin caps go on their heads. Let's hear from them now.
Gilardoni win at the Red Bull Ring. It's the second of the year and more points to keep the lead of the championship.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a good start after the summer break. Qualifying, we were on P6. It seemed like it was going to rain, but it actually dried up quite quickly. So everyone took the gamble to go on slicks, obviously. In the beginning, it was a bit tricky to see where the grip was because it was still quite wet on track. But the car was mega today, so big thanks to Lamborghini. I came in on P2, I think, and Kevin did a fantastic job to finish on P1. So big thanks to Oregon, to my teammate Kevin, Lamborghini, and all my sponsors.
Not an easy race because of the conditions, but eventually everything went all right.
Yeah, as Glenn say, we win like a team and we learn like a team, so we did not have a lot of free practice, dry and wet. amazing job at the start of the race. Then the safety car delayed a little bit our gap, but we try as hardest as we can. So we did it, and I'm so happy. So I want to thank you, Aragon team, for the amazing car, Lamborghini Squadra Corse, and all my supporters.
Well done, guys, and now podium before more rain, I think.
Round 5, race 1 here at the Red Bull Ring of the GTOpen International Championship. The Ferrari started 1, 2, 3 on the grid under threatening skies here in Austria. A messy start. Michele Rugolo, who started on the outside of the front row of the grid, pushed into the grass. The Italian's race was over before the end of the first lap, into the gravel, and ultimately had to pit with a puncher. The 9 Get-Speed performance car, driven by Moritz Kranz in the early part of the race, moved up into second place. It was messy further back. Steve Jans drove a brilliant first stint. Dino Steiner beat the Aust Motorsport Audi, would ultimately finish in 10th place. That brought out the safety car, however, as Moritz Kranz pulled down into pit lane, one of the first cars to come into the pits. This was controversial when Christian Kosanowski turned around front Rueda in the 44 Greystone McLaren. The sun actually came out to shine. Murat Truardaroglu took over the 133 Ferrari from David Fuminelli, who did a sterling job to lead for the first part of this race. Ultimately, the Turk would finish in P6, but he was picked off by Gilardoni, Pulcini, Adam Christodoulou. This was controversial. Osborne and Sebastian Bode coming together, but out front, the Oregon team 1-2 with a dominant performance, and they lock out the top 2 steps of the podium here in Austria. Kevin Gilardoni takes the victory in the 19 Oregon Team Lamborghini, with Glenn Van Berlo in position 2, car 63. His teammate, the Chilean, the South American Benjamin Hites, together with Leonardo Pulcini.
Benjamin Hites, congratulations, guys. And racing us here from the Oregon team, Leonardo Gilardoni. And the team, Team Oregon, Kenny Canizio, which is playing here on the podium.
Oregon 1 and 2 in race 1. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow to qualify. I'll try and explain that flag some other time. Rima and Adam on the 3rd step of the podium. Gilardoni takes the win with Glenn Van Berlo. What a race here this afternoon. We'll be back tomorrow for qualifying and race 2, round 5 of the GTOpen International Championship from the Red Bull Ring here in Austria. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
And the trophies here, just take them up, please. Leonardo Pulcini, Benjamin Hites, and Glenn Van Berlo, Kevin Gilardoni, and Jerry Canaviccio. Please place yourself, and now